Welcome to Introduction to Google Drive. For so many people, any form of file storage can be a bit of a headache. It becomes the junk drawer of your computer. I know, I get it, but Google Drive has many great features built into it that helps increase your productivity. It allows you to work more efficiently, and I just so happen to have a tool belt full of tips and tricks that will help you get you organized. Consider this course your first step to cleaning out that junk drawer of files. Hello everyone, I'm Heather Matisse, your instructor for this course. I'm a certified Google educator and a certified Google trainer. I have spent more than 11 years in the world of learning and development, specifically focusing on EdTech tools in higher education and the corporate spaces. I'm known for finding the most efficient way to use a tool. In this course, we will begin with modules dedicated to getting started with Google Drive. We'll begin with anytime, anywhere access, how to navigate around Google Drive, and how to adjust your display. Then we'll spend time looking at settings, in particular focusing on offline access so that you never have to skip a beat, even when traveling or in a location without internet. Speaking of never skipping a beat, we'll cover how wonderful Microsoft Office files actually work with Google Drive, so it's more than okay if you live between two worlds, Google and Microsoft. And in our second section, we'll cover all of the organization tips and tricks, along with how to search and share files. I've got some secret naming tricks that will leave you wondering how no one has ever shared this with you before. We'll cover how Drive has saved the day for those with multiple file versions, and a few other tips and tricks that is really going to change your file management forever. And finally, a little bonus for our workspace users, I'll touch on priority drive and shared drives. So buckle up your seatbelt and let's get started. Go ahead and log into your Google account and meet me over in the first lesson. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at all of the ways you can quickly and easily access Google Drive, anytime and anywhere. First, let's navigate to the internet through a web browser. In this case, I am using the Google Chrome web browser. As with many other tools, to reach optimal functionality and to have a better experience, it works best when you sort of stay in-house. And in this case, Chrome is the in-house web browser developed by Google. But also Drive works well in all browsers. So pick a browser and let's go first to google.com. The first thing you can see in the top right corner is that I need to sign in. So we're going to click sign in, select your Google account if you have already signed in before, and if not, use the button to add your account. Add in your credentials and get signed in. You know that you are signed in when you see your profile in the top right corner and that blue sign in button has disappeared. Now that we are signed in, we can navigate to Google Drive. There are multiple ways for us to get there. The very first way is to simply Google drive.google.com and press enter. That is one quick way to get there. Another way to get there is when you are in most Google tools, you can click on the Google Apps widget, which are the 9 dots in the top right corner. This will reveal all of the Google apps, so from here you can select Google Drive. For example, let's say you're working in your email and you need to quickly jump to Drive. You can click on that Apps widget and select Google Drive. There's another way for us to get there, and that's by creating a bookmark. To create a bookmark from Google Chrome, select the star in the top right corner, select a location for it to be placed, and give it a title for this bookmark. You can title it My Drive or something else. Click Done, and now that bookmark has been created. I now see that bookmark on my bookmarks bar. I can quickly click on that and it takes me straight into my Google Drive. Now a little extra tip for you, you can right click on that bookmark that you just made and select Edit. And instead of giving it a title, you can actually set it to no title for this bookmark, and by doing so, only the favicon will be shown. I'm going to click Save and notice that now on the bookmarks bar, only the favicon, which is the Google Drive logo, is what is shown. That's now visible on the bookmarks bar. such a great trick and easy way for us to quickly jump into Google Drive from any page that we are on when we are in our web browser. Great, so we have learned multiple ways for us to get to our Google Drive from a web browser. Now there is another way when you're working on some sort of laptop or desktop. You can actually get the Google Drive app. You can directly type in google.com/drive/download to access this page, or you can go to Google Drive, select Settings, and then Get Drive for Desktop. You're going to select Download Drive for Desktop and follow the on-screen prompts. This will allow you to treat Google Drive as another drive on your computer, which is important for syncing files on your computer to Google Drive. If you are a person who is working more from your desktop than you are from the web, let's say with Microsoft Office files, you will find this desktop app of Google Drive to be very useful. And as you can see, one more way to get to your Google Drive is from a mobile device or tablet with the Google Drive app. Now this will really help you work seamlessly across multiple devices and give you that anytime, anywhere access to your files. Awesome, so that is our first look at getting to Google Drive. Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about the navigation menu. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to begin moving left to right across the Google Drive window by starting with the navigation. Once you log into Google Drive from a web browser, your screen will look similar to this. Along the left, we have our navigation. Along the top, we have our search, and on the right, we have things such as offline access, support, the settings, our Google Apps widget, and our account. Just below that, you have access to filters, your display, and also looking at details. In the center of your screen is your Google Drive files. If you have it turned on, the suggested files are at the top, and below that will be your other folders and files that are in your drive. Also here in this view, you can see along the top you have a couple built-in filters, such as filtering by file type, people, or last modified. So let's go down our navigation here on the left. Here we have the New button, where we can create new files and new folders or upload existing content. Below that, you will see My Drive. Think of that as home or documents. If you have Google Workspace, whether it be for education or business, you will see Priority listed just above My Drive. Next, we have computers, so if you're syncing with a desktop or laptop, which we're going to go into detail about later, you'll see those here. Below that, you have Shared with Me. Now this gives you quick access to files or folders that have been shared with you by other Google users. So if someone recently shared a file with you, instead of going to your email or searching your drive for that file, you might find it quicker to just simply go straight here to the Shared with Me. This is a great place for you to use those filters at the top, such as searching for a file type, or even the person who shared the file with you. The really great news about this is that the files in Shared with Me and in the shared drives do not take up your storage space. That is unless you have added the file to your drive, all of which we're going to take a closer look at in this course. Speaking of shared drives, you'll see that listed here if you're a Google Workspace user through business or education. Let's continue, and next up is Recent. This is one of the areas of navigation that you may visit frequently. Sometimes this could be the quickest way for you to get to a file and pick up where you left off instead of searching through your drive or navigating through multiple folders. This is also a great place to go if you happen to have maybe forgotten where you placed that file or which folder you placed it in, or you're trying to search but you're not coming up with the correct title. Next up, we have Starred. Similar to working with Gmail, you can star a file or a folder, and everything that has a star on it will be located under Starred. Think of this as creating quick access links, or think of it as creating bookmarks for files or folders. Now, the key with using stars, and we're going to go into more depth about this later, The key is to really just keep this down to a small list of folders and files and frequently update it. So for example, if you're currently working on some sort of project and frequently visiting a set of files and folders, you would want to put a star on those so that you can come here and quickly access them and pick up where you left off. However, when that project is over, you're going to make sure to remove that star so that you can keep this list here short and sweet and easy to navigate. I'm sure, as you can imagine, having 1,000 files listed here would defeat the purpose of this feature, right? Now, also similar to Gmail, you have spam. If you happen to have files that end up located here, they will be permanently removed after 30 days. And then we also have trash. Again, these files are deleted forever after 30 days. And last on our navigation is our storage. You do have just below your storage button a visual that is shown at all times so that you know just how much space has been used, but you can click on the storage button to find all of the information that you need. What is great about this page is that it is automatically sorted in descending order. So at the top of your page, we'll have all of your files that are taking up the most space. Oftentimes, these are things such as videos. So this is a great place to come and investigate your storage space and deleting items to free up space if needed. Great, that is all. So meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about display and file or folder details. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at display options and file and folder details. So we went down the left side of our screen, so now let's look here along the top. First, we have our filters. We can filter by file type by selecting the drop-down menu. By selecting an option, it will filter only those items in our drive that match the criteria selected. Another great filter to use is by people, if you know who the owner is, or if you know when it was last modified. For last modified, selecting the drop-down, you can select last modified in the last 7 days, 30 days, or the year. A great feature of this is the use of the custom date range if you know when it was last modified. So for example, if you have a certain flyer or newsletter that goes out every August, you can use this to quickly jump to the files that you were working on last August to help you pull up maybe the brainstorming documents, the planning documents, the flyer or newsletter itself, whatever it may be, and you can jump in and start from where you left off a year ago. When you're done with these filters, you can select Clear All. Now, over on the right side of your screen, you do have a button to hide those filters if you do not need them or you don't want them taking up space on your screen. Beside that, you have your Google Drive layout or display view. Currently, mine is in list view, so the icon is illustrating a switch would be to a grid layout. Once I switch, now notice that the icon has changed and illustrates a list layout, so I can click on that button to return to the list view. Notice the difference between these two views. With the grid view, it does give me a preview of those files, which can be helpful, but also notice that it's a bit difficult to see a very long file or folder name. So by switching to list view, I can see longer titles of files and folders. This may be the number one reason why some users prefer to use the list view over the grid view. Now, when you are in grid view, by hovering over the title of the file, you will see the full title, so that is one way to sort of get the best of both worlds if you want to see the full titles as well as a preview of what is in that file with the grid view. You can also switch in between these views depending on what you are looking for at that moment. If you are completely new to using Google Drive, you may find that the list layout is more familiar to you with what you're used to coming from a desktop, so that could be a good place to start until you get comfortable. Next up over here on the right is the Info or I button. This is a button to view details. You can select a folder or files and then select that Details button. The window that opens has two tabs. you have details, and you have activity. Now, details are going to tell you who has access to this folder or file that you've selected, along with some information such as when it was modified or opened or created. And down at the bottom, you can give this folder a description, which is helpful when working on a team or collaborating with others. I think one place you may frequently visit is activity. This is especially helpful when working with others or on a team. So here you can see when things were last modified with either a folder or a file. And in this case, we're looking at a folder so we can see actions such as copying, creating, or deleting within that folder. By selecting an individual file, the activity will show at what time a change was made and who made that change. Now, to view a full history of track changes, you would want to open that individual file and then go to History. This section of Google Drive is helpful to see at a larger level if any changes were made at all, and then from there, you can go into the file and look deeper at what the exact changes are. You can use the X to close this window so that you can see more of your Google Drive. Great, so that is all we have for this one, looking at displays and details. Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about the contents of your Google Drive. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at the contents of your Google Drive. We have worked our way from left to right across our Google Drive window. We looked at the navigation on the left, and then we looked at our options along the top. Now let's look at our Google Drive that we have here in the center. The first thing you will see at the top is your suggested files. These files are based on your most frequently used or most recently opened files. There is a setting to turn this off, which we will cover in our next lesson. I'm going to have mine turned off now just for easier viewing. Right now I am in the list view, so looking left to right, there are the names of my folders and files, followed by the owner, the last modified, and then the file size. Now remember, we talked about different views. When I am in grid view, I will see just the icons or previews of the files and folders. Working from this list view, let's first take a look at our hover actions. These are similar to the hover actions that you will see in Gmail. As I hover, I have the option to share, to download, to rename, or to add a star. For more actions, I can click the three dots on the far right. Also, with a folder or a file selected, up along the top, there are some of those same hover actions, but with a few extras. There is share again, download again, but this time there is an option to move the file or folder and an option to quickly grab a copy of the link to that file or folder. Also, with this file or folder selected, I also have those three dots again for more actions. Another option for accessing all files and folder actions is just to right-click on the file or folder. Notice the variety of options that we have here. We do have some of those same quick actions that we saw, such as copying a link, moving a folder, renaming a file, downloading or removing the file. Some additional options that you have when you right-click includes things such as preview, open with, add shortcut to drive, making a file available offline. Notice one thing that is listed here, view details, was not a hover action or a quick action, but that is something that is always available whether you select the file or not in the top right corner with that little eye. On top of all these options, there's also keyboard shortcuts, which we'll talk about in another lesson. As with many Google tools, there's more than one way to do everything. So as with all things Google, it's best to explore until you find what works best for you. Alright, so we have our files and we have our folders. Let's look at the different file types. Here are our typical Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Sheets. The great news is that when you add a Microsoft Office file, such as Microsoft Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, those files will be in the same similar color, but with their respective icons, and extensions will be listed. So in an upcoming lesson, we're going to take a deeper dive and look at Microsoft Office files and how those work with Google Drive, but do notice that they are easily distinguished from this window. Another common file type is PDFs, which look like this. Now, Google Drive also has other types of files that may be listed here, and here are a few other examples. We've got Google Forms, Drawings, My Maps, Google Sites. If you have any scripts, if you are using Google Jamboard. Now, notice the color and the icon associated with each. Great, so hopefully now these colors and these icons will help you understand what a file is before you open it and access it. And there we go. Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about some special settings and getting offline access to your files. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at some special settings and getting your offline access to your files turned on. We have been working our way left to right across our Google Drive, so the last thing is the top right corner. First up, we have offline access. By clicking on this, you will see your options to have an offline preview. When turning this on, notice which files become grayed out. This is showing you which files you will be able to access when offline and which files are not available offline. What this means is that you are able to continue to edit those files without an internet connection, and once the connection is established again, it will sync with those changes that you have made and appear across everywhere that file is located. If you are going to be offline for an extended period of time, this is a very helpful feature. If there are files that are shown as unavailable while offline, but you know that you want that file while offline, you can come down to that file, right-click, and select Available Offline. Notice that files that are available for offline access are noted with the same symbol that you see in the top right corner. Now, when I click Offline Preview in the top right corner, the same file that was not available offline now is available. Again, this means I can edit the file while offline, meaning no internet connection, and once an internet connection is established again, the changes will sync with Google Drive, thus updating the file everywhere it is located across all of my devices. Next up here in the top right corner is support. So this will take you to Google Support, the Google Training Center, which is filled with a lot of help guides, and you can check out the updates or the terms and policies. Don't be shy with that last option and send your feedback to Google. Next up is settings. When clicking on the settings gear, you have the options of settings. You also have that option of the Google Drive for the desktop app. And then you also have a list of keyboard shortcuts, which we will cover later. Let's go into settings. These settings are broken into a couple of categories. So first up is your general. Some of these settings will be similar to Gmail, such as your density choices of comfortable, cozy, and compact. By default, you will be set to comfortable, but if you want to have less space in between text and rows, you can select compact. Scrolling down, if you know that you have a lot of Microsoft Office files and you would prefer that those were just automatically converted to the Google version, you can select this button here that says Convert Uploads to Google Docs Editor Format. We'll discuss this more in depth in an upcoming lesson. Next up is enabling that offline access that we were just looking at. Make sure that this button is selected if you want to create, open, and edit any type of documents or files on this device while you're offline. Next, down here towards the bottom, we have the option to turn on or turn off those suggested files, as well as to set the language and look at managing the search history. Now let's look at notifications. This section you may want to check and turn items on or turn them off. Here you can set to have updates about Google Drive items in your browser, or you can get it by email. If a file is shared with you, how would you like to be notified? And last, we have the ability to manage our apps. This is where you can use certain apps as your default. You can also select the options to view the product page or disconnect the app from your drive. As you add more apps, this list will grow, so I suggest you come back here frequently. Use the back arrow to return to Google Drive. And the last two buttons you have in the top right corner are your Google Apps widget along with your Google account, which is standard across your other Google tools. Awesome! Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about the New button. See you there! Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at the New button and what that means for adding or creating files and folders in Google Drive. Now that we have covered everything on this screen when we log into our Google Drive, let's go back and look at that one button in particular, the New button. Clicking this button will reveal the options to create new folders, to upload existing files or entire folders, or to create new blank files such as Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Forms. Or if you go down to More, you will see Drawings, My Maps, Sites, App Scripts, and Google Jamboard. An alternative to clicking the New button is to right-click in the center where you have some white empty space, and you will see the exact same options. As you can tell, Google loves to give you more than one option to do the same thing. First, let's take a look at creating new folders. I'm going to use the shortcut by right-clicking, and I'm going to select New Folder. Give it a title and select Create. Great, that was quick. It's easy, right? Double-click to open a folder. Back to our New button, you can select the option to upload a file or folder, but another option is to simply drag and drop the file from your computer to your Google Drive in the web browser where we are currently located. The alternative is if you have the Google Drive app on your device where the files and folders are syncing. In that case, you can drag and drop that file directly into your Google Drive app. So let's recap. You can drag and drop files from your computer to your Google Drive in the web browser, or drag and drop or move files from your computer to the Google Drive folder app on your computer. That's computer to web browser or computer to computer. Lots of options here. Now, what if you want to create a new file from scratch? Again, we're going to select that New button. We can go down to the file, such as Google Doc, by clicking directly on Google Doc, and it will create a blank document. The alternative is to click on the arrow to see more options. You do have an option to select a blank document, or you can select from a template. Here, you're giving a selection to choose from. So in this case, I'm going to go down and select Project Proposal. Taking a step back out to my Google Drive will show that that file is now located in the folder where I started from. The same is true for creating these other files, Google Sheets and Google Slides and Google Forms. You do have template options available. And remember, as soon as you create that file, it's automatically located in your Google Drive in the folder where you originally started, and it automatically syncs. There's no need to worry about a save button. Great. Get a few files or folders uploaded into your drive, and then meet me over in the next lesson where we talk a little bit more about Microsoft Office files specifically. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at how Microsoft Office files work with Google Drive. The great news is with a recent update, you can now edit your Microsoft Office files directly from Google Drive, which means you're accessing them and editing them from anywhere that you have access to the internet and your Google Drive. That's fantastic news. Now remember, as we talked about before, you can tell if a file is still a Microsoft file versus a Google document based off of the extension as well as the icon that you see beside of the file name. So for example, here is a Microsoft Word file. I can double click to open that file and I will see the Google Doc Tool Editor along the top, meaning those are the options that I have available for editing this file. So opening a Microsoft Word file from Google Drive in a web browser will look very similar to using a Google Doc, with only one small exception. The extension is highlighted in blue in the top left corner. This is reminding you that you are working within a Microsoft Word format. Now, what if I want this file to be a true Google Doc? You will select File and then Save as Google Doc. It's important to note that by doing this, you now have two versions of this file. Notice from Google Drive, you see the exact same title, but the icon that is shown is a Google Doc versus the Microsoft Word document. That means any edits that are made in one version do not translate to the other version. They are now two separate files. So make sure you're paying attention, very close attention, to the extension in the file name before you begin editing. So, as a good rule of thumb, use a system to help keep yourself organized. This may include putting something in the title, such as the word original for Microsoft Word files, or for the Google Doc file, write the word working, as in this is the working file or the current file that we are working in. Other users like to create a folder called Archive or Originals, and that is where they move the original files so that they don't see the duplicate out in the main folder. Another option is what we've talked about before, which is to click on Settings, go into your settings and select the option to convert all files to the Google Doc editor format. This may help as well. One last thing to mention about using your Microsoft Office files is that you don't have to actually ever edit them from here in the web browser with Google Drive. Even though that is possible when you're on the go or you're away from your computer, or even if you have offline access turned on and you need to edit those files while offline, you do also have the option to just simply use Microsoft Office on your device and use the Google Drive app that's located on your hard drive and use it as a cloud storage choice that keeps everything backed up. Again, you're using everything on your computer, you're using your Microsoft Office Word files, and the Google Drive app is just simply your cloud, where your files are stored and synced and backed up. Again, this is the beauty of Google in that it gives you multiple options to do what works best for you, whether that be from the desktop where you are working in these Microsoft Office files, or it means working from your Microsoft Office files in a web browser and a web-based version of Google Drive, which therefore gives you this anytime, anywhere access. And this works for the other forms of Microsoft Office files, such as Excel, which is a Google Sheet, and PowerPoint, which is Google Slides. Fantastic. Meet me over in the next lesson, and we are going to complete our first exercise. See you there. Hi everyone! For exercise 1, your task is to create a folder in Google Drive and upload some files to that folder. So pause the video and take your time working through this task. When you're ready, press play to see the solution worked out. Okay, so how did you do? Let's take a look. First off, you can select the New button in the top left corner, or right-click in the white space in the center of the screen and select New Folder. Give that folder a name and select Create. Double-click on that folder to open it. We can use the New button, or we can right-click, select the file or folder to upload, or you can simply drag and drop the file from your desktop to your Google Drive in our web browser. If you're looking to create a new file directly here from Google Drive, you can select that New button or right-click, and then you can select to create a new blank file or a file from a template. Just give it a name and it will appear here in the Google Drive folder. And that's it. How did you do? I'm sure you did a great job. Meet me over in the next lesson as we continue on our journey with Google Drive. everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at our first step towards Google Drive organization with some naming hacks. Now, our first organization trick is naming, and while that sounds like something that everyone would already know about, there's actually a few special tricks that we can use with Google Drive that will help you find your files quickly, keep you organized, and ultimately increase your productivity. So let's take a look at our first naming trick, emojis. Yes, it's that simple, emojis. They are great for naming folders. You know what your brain reads faster? Images. Images over text. So use that to your advantage. So for example, some standard folders that you may have include a do not delete folder or an archive folder. If it is your personal Google Drive, you may have a folder with important documents, and then any additional folders that have to do with your line of work. To add an emoji, it depends on the device that you are on. Some devices have built-in tools that allow you to add special characters or symbols. Sometimes it has to do with a certain keyboard that you can switch to with special characters. If you don't have a built-in tool to add emojis when adding text, search the internet with the words emoji copy. And there will be a variety of sites to choose from where you can copy and paste an emoji in your Google Drive, or anywhere you're typing for that matter. So in this case, I'm going to add emojis to these folders that are on my main screen when I log in every day. These are the highest level folders that organize all of my Google Drive content. As we have learned previously, you can hover over the folder and select the rename button, or you can right-click on the folder and select rename. So let's paste in the emoji at the beginning of the folder name and click OK, and look at that. How does that look now? From a wall of text to text with emojis, your brain can now quickly scan and jump to that folder that you're looking for. Okay, great. Now I'm going to go down into the example folder and let's look at another trick, numbers. So Google Drive files and folders are organized alphabetically. However, sometimes there are files that you know would be more helpful in a specific order or just simply at the top. Meaning you don't have to number all folders like this, just the ones you want at the very top. Okay, so notice in this case, these folders are named from Addie, which is an instruction design model, but because it's in alphabetical order, it's placing my last two steps, I and E, in the wrong order. So you can click the rename button when you hover and add a number at the beginning of the folder or file name. So by renumbering these, I now have this instructional model that is used by the team in the correct order that the course development would go through. Again, you don't have to use these numbers on all folders. It could just be the 2 or 3 or 4 that you want to be at the very top and everything else after it to be alphabetical. We've got another naming trick demonstrated down here at the bottom with the files, and that is the use of the asterisk. The more asterisks you have, the higher up the file or the folder will go. So for example, if you don't want to use numbers or emojis, you could just simply use the asterisks with more used on those files and folders that you want listed first, as demonstrated here. So 3 asterisks would put the file or folder first, followed by 2, and then 1. Everything after would be in alphabetical order. So we've looked at all 3 of those options. Now let's take a look at the hierarchy. This applies to naming files or folders. So here you can see that the 3 asterisks put the file at the very top, followed by 2 and then 1. Next are the files with emojis, followed by the files with numbers, and then everything else after that will follow in alphabetical order. And that is not all. We have one more naming trick. Did you know that the maximum characters allowed for naming a file or folder in Google Drive is actually over 32,000 characters? Yes, it is that long. So that means use that to your advantage. Gone are the days where you need to keep those file names very short. Instead, stick all that important information in that title so that you can easily search for it, which we will cover in another lesson. And also, this means you don't need to ever use folders if you have a good naming system in place, because then you can just search when you need a file, because nothing can beat the power of Google's search engine that's built into tools like Google Drive. So, how do you break up these extra long tiles? Use parentheses or brackets to put information such as dates or steps in the process, or whether the file is active or original or archived. Use forward slashes or hyphens or a bullet to break up sections of a title. And speaking of adding dates, one pro tip is to actually put your date, or at least the year, at the front of the name of that file or folder. Why? Well, we talked about Google Drive being organized alphabetically. So if you're looking for a specific project folder, but they all begin with the word project, and then the date is all the way at the end, it's actually going to take you a little bit longer to scroll and find that folder, as opposed to being able to immediately jump to the year and then look for the single project. Again, this goes back to what we said before. If you're working on a team, make sure to come up with these naming conventions and follow through with them on every file and folder that is created. Awesome! I bet you weren't expecting that. Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about more great organization tips. See you there! Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at some organization tips and tricks to help you with your Google Drive. One great organizational feature built into Google Drive is the ability to color folders. Now, this only applies to folders and not files. So here I am in the example project folder. Let's say that every single project includes these same 5 subfolders. Just as we talked about with emojis and our brains reading images faster than it reads text, the same can be true for color. So for example, I can say that in all of my project folders, I want the Analyze subfolder to always be the color purple. So I right-click on a folder, go down to Change Color, and then select a color for that folder. Repeat that process for all of the folders that you would like to add a color to. Now, the key with using color is to use it sparingly or at a minimum. Be strategic and have a purpose for the use of the color on the folders. If every single folder had a color, you may begin to lose the effect of color to help you quickly navigate around folders. Now, another idea with the use of color is to use color by project, or maybe it is by year or by quarter. So for example, the first quarter, all projects could be blue, and the second quarter could be green, and so on. In my example of coloring subfolders for each project, my eyes will begin to be trained to look for, let's say, yellow before I look for the word implement. This goes back to the other things that we have mentioned, which is using the system you come up with consistently. One last thing to note about these colors on the folders is that it is only visible to you and your account. So the teammates that have access to these folders do not see these colors. And again, this only applies to folders and not files. Now let's look at stars. We have briefly touched on this when looking at hover actions and the starred section over on the left side of our navigation. If you recall, we mentioned to use stars sparingly so that you don't end up with thousands of files and folders in the starred section. So think of this as the files you are working on currently and you need quick and easy access to, but when the project is over or you no longer need it, make sure to remove the star. So to do this, you can hover over the folder or the file and then select the star. Repeat that process for other folders and files, and then you can select Starred in the left-hand navigation. To remove a star, click the star and it will disappear. And there you go. Third tip we have for organizing your files and folders in Google Drive is the ability to move files and folders. Do you clean your house? Probably. So Google Drive houses your files, therefore needs a routine cleaning, which often means moving files and folders or consolidating them or archiving them. To do this, you can begin by right-clicking and then select Move To. First, you'll be given a suggestion of where to place this file. You can also select Starred to reveal any starred folders, or you can select all locations. From here, you can navigate down into your folders or subfolders until you find a location where you want to move that file or folder. Notice from here you do have the New Folder button in the bottom left, and you have Move buttons on the right and at the bottom. Another move option that may feel familiar to you is to use the drop-down arrow beside of My Drive. From there, you'll see a list of your folders and you can dive down into subfolders. Just like on typical desktops, you can now drag a file and move it over to one of those folders or subfolders. Now that you know how to move those folders, make sure to come up with a routine or a schedule of how often you will come in here and organize your drive. A good starting point is at a minimum twice a year. So that could be possibly a spring cleaning and then again in the fall. Maybe if you work by quarters, you could do it at the end of each quarter. Either way, come up with something so that you can keep this Google Drive manageable. Great, so now you know about colors, using stars, and moving files to organize or clean up your Google Drive. Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about a few more tips to help you get organized. See you there. Hi everyone and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to continue looking at ways to get organized with Google Drive. First up, we have document versions. Prior to using Google Drive, many users are used to labeling documents based off of their version. So let's say, for example, labeling this Google slide as V1 for version 1 and V2 for version 2 and so on. Some users mark versions by date. Depending on how many iterations of a document there are, you could end up with a lot of files to look through in your Google Drive. And if you're not using the naming tricks we talked about, it could be difficult to find the file you are looking for. Google Drive has the trick that you need to fix this situation and really streamline document versions. Let's look at this example file PDF. As I go to upload the file again, a warning is appearing that says this file already exists in this location in my Google Drive. It's asking if I want to replace the existing file or if I want to keep both. The great news is replacing the files won't change the share settings. Let that sink in for a second. Have you ever noticed that a flyer or an invitation, or maybe it's like an employee handbook, is sent out as a PDF by email or posted in the group chat? When changes are made, a new email or a new chat comes through with the latest version. But with this feature, by selecting Replace Existing File, that link and those share settings stay the same, but the file itself is automatically updated. So you don't have to resend out that file. And an added bonus for you, there's now only one single file in your drive as opposed to two files, which is more than likely going to grow to 3 or 4 or 5 or who knows how many in the coming years. With the Replace Existing File option selected, click Upload. Once uploaded, right-click on the file and now select Manage Versions. From here, you will see a list of the previous versions that are automatically numbered for you. Using the three-dot menu on the right, you can select to download a specific version, keep the file forever, or delete a specific version. Speaking of keep forever, old versions may be deleted after 30 days or after 100 versions have been stored, so if you do need multiple versions to be kept in your drive, Make sure that Keep Forever is selected so it doesn't get deleted. And finally, what is also great from this window, you can upload a new version directly from here with the button at the top. And when you're done, you can select Close. Great, so that is managing multiple versions of a document in Google Drive. Now let's take a look at adding some shortcuts to files. Let's say you are in charge of the financial side of a project by keeping track of possibly, let's say, the budget or vendors, or maybe it's the inventory. While working on a team, there is one single file that the rest of your team needs access to, either just to view or even possibly to edit. But on your side, this particular file fits within the folder structure that you've created. Let's say you log into work on this particular budget file, and while doing so, there are a handful of other files in that same folder that you need to reference. Would you rather have all of your files together, or some files in the team folder and everything else in your personal drive? More than likely, you're going to say it's easier if just everything is in one place. So, a shortcut allows you to say, hey, this file lives in my folder, in my drive that I have organized with all the colors and the tricks that I've learned, but I'm going to put a shortcut to this document inside the Teams folder, so that way others can view it if they need it, but it's organized in the location that I want in my drive for quick and easy access. It's like allowing a file to live in multiple locations. So to do this, right-click on a file, or it could be a folder, and then select Add Shortcut to Drive. From here, you navigate to the folder where you want to move the item. For those of you working with Google Workspace for education or for business, you can also add these shortcuts to a shared drive. Great. So now the team can see this budget, but they do not see the rest of my folder where I have everything else organized. The best part is I can go directly to my drive to work, and I don't have to worry about digging into the team folders to find just the one file that I want. Awesome. Lots of food for thought, right? Okay, so meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about the power of search. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at, well, what is one thing that Google is really known for? The search capabilities. As you may have seen when using Gmail, the search that is built into Google Drive is one of the best features. As with other things with Google, there is more than one way to search. First, we've already talked about the search chips, or these filters that you see at the top when you log into Google Drive, unless you have turned that feature off over here on the right. At the very top, you will see Search in Drive, where you can click and begin typing. Search results will appear as you type. Google Drive searches the titles and the content of all files that you have permission to see, meaning even files that are shared with you but not added to your Google Drive yet will be searched. To see all results, press Enter on your keyboard. From here, you can filter your search results further using the options along the top. Don't forget to look at other options such as last modified, your file size, and location. One really great feature is to look down at the bottom when you select a file. You will see the file path, and you can select those folders to jump straight to that location. Okay, so now let's get into advanced search. Very similar to Gmail, if you click the icon to the right of the search bar, look at the variety of search categories that appear, such as searching by type or owner, or if the file or folder has a certain set of words. If you know the item name or just part of the item name, that can be entered as well. So think back to the naming tricks that we talked about and how it's best to have long descriptive titles so that you can quickly and easily find it by typing in that information here. If you happen to know the location of a file or folder, you can select that here along with when it was last modified. If you happen to be using approvals or requested actions on a file, especially for those of you working on Teams, these are must-have buttons to quickly find those files. And last, if you know if the file or folder was shared with a specific person, you can use the field at the bottom. When the results appear, you have those same filters at the top to dive even deeper in order to find your file or folder. Okay, great. So we know that search is a fantastic tool, but let's cover some hidden tips. Similar to search in Gmail, you can use a minus sign to find documents that exclude a particular word. For example, there are many files and folders in my Google Drive titled Project Proposal, but if I'm looking only for a proposal, I can put a minus sign just before the word project and then press enter. The very first file displayed is the file that I'm looking for and matches that criteria. It does not have the word project, but it has the word proposal. A few other of my favorites include using the word title to search for items by title directly in the search bar. I like to use the word follow up to find files that have any action items or suggestions assigned to me, or using the word type to search by type of document. Check out Google Drive's Help Center for a list of all of their advanced search terms. Alright, so meet me over in the next lesson where we're going to talk about sharing files. See you there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Google Drive training. In this lesson, we're going to look at sharing files and folders. With Google Drive, you can share files and folders in your Drive with anyone. When you share from Google Drive, you can give edit access, comment access, or view-only access. If you have Google Workspace for education or business, and you are sharing with a team, you can share with an entire Google group, such as, let's say, the marketing team, instead of typing in each individual person's email address. You can also choose to turn on a file or a folder for anyone within inside of your domain to view, but anyone outside of your domain does not have access. For example, if you are sharing out a quarterly newsletter, you can select to turn on anyone in your domain can view. Let's first look at how to do this. As with most things with Google, there's more than one way to share. When you hover, you have the share button. When selecting the folder or the file, you also have the share button at the top, or you can right-click and select share. If you have the Google file open, you can also share it there. But let's take a look at it from this Google Drive window. Here is where you can add people and groups. Down at the bottom, if you are in an education or business domain, you would see that listed here, but for personal accounts, you do not see that, and instead, when you select restricted and switch it to anyone with the link, it means anyone on the internet versus anyone inside the domain or institution. Once someone is added to the folder or the file, you can select for them to have view access, comment access, or edit access. One important thing to check is your settings. Do you want to allow editors to change permission and share? Do you want to allow viewers and commenters to see the option to download or print or copy? For those with eligible work and school accounts, you'll also see a setting here to set an expiration date for sharing a file or folder with a person or group, such as sharing a file for only 1 week. Click Done or Send when you're ready. To come back and check the settings at any time, you can right-click and select Share. From here, you can change ownership if you need to, or make any additional changes to the share settings. From the share window, you can select the Copy Link button. Or, the shortcut to this is selecting a file or folder and then selecting the Copy Link button at the top of the screen. And the last way to do this is by right-clicking on the folder or file and selecting Copy Link. And that's it for sharing. Meet me over in the next lesson where we complete our second exercise. See you there! Hi Hi everyone! For exercise 2, your task is to pick a folder in your Google Drive and reorganize the content that is in that folder by using the naming and organization tricks that you learned in this section of the course. So pause the video and take your time working through this task. When you're ready, press play to see the solution worked out. Okay, so how did you do? Let's take a look. First, pick a folder to organize and let's see what's inside. When it comes to organizing folders, you can use color. In this case, let's say we're developing some college courses, and in this folder, I have some chemistry and some nursing courses. I can right-click and select a color. I can color the chemistry courses one color and the nursing courses another. Also, notice the folders are automatically in alphabetical order. Let's say that this master level Chem 651 is what is currently under development. So let's add some asterisks to the title to put it at the top of this folder for quicker access. And remember, other tricks include adding emojis or numbers. Okay, so also that Chem 651 is also a pretty important folder right now. So let's add a star for even quicker access when I log in daily. And now down here at the bottom, these are short titles on these files, and probably not the only ones in this drive with a similar title. They may be hard to find when searching. So let's make these much more descriptive by adding dates or other important information that make it easy to find these files when searching. Remember, don't be shy about the length of the title of a file or even a folder. And that's it. How does that look now? What types of tricks did you use in your folder? I'm sure you did a great job, so meet me over in the next lesson where we continue our Google Drive journey. See you there. Hi Google Workspace users, and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at a special feature only available for certain workspace users, whether it be for business or education, and it's called Priority or Priority Drive. Let's jump right in and look at Priority Drive. Once you access Priority, which is located just above My Drive, at the top you will see Suggested Files. Down below that, you have what are called workspaces, and then below that are the hidden workspaces. So right off the bat, you can see that this is a location that allows you to keep important or frequently used files within easy reach when you log into Google Drive. So think of Priority as another choice for organizing yourself and increasing your productivity with Google Drive, meaning Priority may or may not be the best tool for you, so it takes time and practice to find what works best for you and your personal workflow. The only important thing you must remember is, just as with the use of folders or stars, it does require maintenance in order for this section of Google Drive to be effective. Let's go top to bottom again. Notice along the right, it is telling me why this file has been suggested. It could be because I recently commented on that file, or I have opened it frequently in the past week or the past month, or maybe yesterday. By selecting the three-dot menu to the right of a suggested file, you will have a menu of options, which does include marking a file as not a helpful suggestion. Down below our suggested files are workspaces. You can think of workspace essentially as a grouping of bookmarks, or let's say starred documents, each of which can have up to 25 files in it. So adding files to a workspace here does not remove them from anywhere else or change any type of permissions. It's just an organized bookmark or star board. At this time, folders cannot be added to a workspace and only files. Let's create a workspace. Select Create, give it a name. It is possible to use the same tactics we talked about, such as numbering, or to help you visualize these workspaces, you can use emojis in the titles. And select Create again. This screen appears. You can select Add Files, and now on the right is a mini version of your Google Drive where you can select which files to add. They will turn blue as you select them, and a count will be shown at the bottom. Remember, your max is 25 files per workspace. When you're ready, you can select Insert, and great, now they are added. Select the three-dot menu to the right side of a file to see a menu of options. One option includes removing that file from a workspace. And when you're done, you can select Done at the bottom. Create as many workspaces as you need. Clicking on the bluish gray area of a workspace will open up the screen that we were just on. From here, you can add or remove files in this workspace. So it's okay if this changes frequently. Of course, being Google, there is another way to do this whole process. So let's navigate to another location in our Google Drive and right-click on a file. It doesn't matter, any file. We're going to select Add to Workspace and then either select the workspace that you want to add this file to, or you can also select Create a new workspace directly from here in your regular drive. Great. So let's jump back over to Priority and look at our workspaces one last time. You can use the three-dot menu to the right of the title of the workspace to show a menu of options, which does include hiding or removing or deleting a workspace. A hidden workspace can be used to archive old projects or potentially a project that is on hold. So you can hide some workspaces not currently in use when you want to sort of declutter. Awesome, so that is Priority Drive. The key here is to frequently clean, organize, and update these workspaces so that you can get the most out of this Google Drive feature. Meet me over in the next lesson where we talk about another special Google Workspace feature called Shared Drives. See you there! Hi Google Workspace users, and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to look at another special feature only available for certain workspace users called Shared Drives. This concept of collaborative or team or shared drives has been around for a little bit now and has gone through a couple different iterations, but Google has landed on something that is probably here to stay with their shared drives. The purpose of shared drives is to really help teams collaborate more effectively and for files to be more easily managed and transferred, especially when team members either leave or join the team. So shared drives are essentially just special folders that are in Google Drive that you can still store, search, and access files. Notice as you click around, everything looks the exact same as working with files in your regular drive. The big difference with a shared drive is that files belong to the team and not an individual. So remember back to the time when we were looking at the access levels for an individual file, and each file and folder had an owner, and we could sort of transfer ownership of that file or folder. In shared drive, there is no one single owner. Your organization owns the files in a shared drive. The best part about this is when you're working with team members and someone leaves or goes out on some sort of leave, or maybe their account is deleted, the files that they added or created in the shared drive stay in that shared drive. So there's no need to worry about the sort of transfer of file access or ownership during those times. One easy way to manage a shared drive is by using Google Groups. So if the team is in the same Google group, or maybe they are across multiple Google groups, when adding members to the shared drive, you can just add those Google groups instead of by adding individuals to the shared drive. Meaning, when a new member is either added to the team or Google group, or a member leaves the team or Google group, that individual automatically gains or loses access to the shared drive without the added step of then having to come to Google Drive and having to share these team folders with that new individual, or going in and removing an individual. So that creates a much more efficient process for managing members that need access to the team's files, and that's by using Google Groups. So if everything is the same, why is shared drives so special? What is special about shared drives is the access levels. Beside of a member's name or beside of a Google Groups name, there is a drop-down access level menu. By selecting the drop-down, there are options here such as managers, content managers, contributors, and then the two that you are familiar with, which are the viewer and commenter. In many cases, teams will only have one or two managers and maybe a few content managers, giving everyone else on the team contributor access. So that allows the overall structure, such as those high-level folders, to remain in place. If working with a very large team, this is a game changer for team file organization. One thing to note, like other share settings in your regular drive, this access level is being applied at the entire shared drive level, but can be applied on a folder by folder basis as well if that is something that is needed for your team. So let's pause right there for a second and notice that the content manager has the ability to share content. Okay, now let's look at these advanced settings. Some are similar to what you see in your regular drive, but I want you to notice with shared drives, you can allow people outside of your domain to access files or to not allow that access and keep them private. The other option here is to allow people who aren't shared drive members to access files, meaning those who are not necessarily a shared drive member, but are within your domain. Or you can say, don't allow this and keep everything private. So with one or both of these turned off, there isn't much sharing going on by members of the shared drive, even if they are content managers. And I can also tell you that this is probably one of the biggest reasons why teams like to use shared drives, is to know that no one can accidentally turn on a share setting for a specific file or folder and it gets outside of either the team or outside of the domain. So this allows you to sort of control that and keep everything safe and private if that is something that is needed for your team and files. Okay, great. So to recap, the share settings, the access levels, and these membership controls are what makes shared drives so special and can really make a big impact for those working on teams. Everything else that you have learned applies here when using shared drives. It's just a folder. Think of it that way. Awesome. So meet me over in the next lesson where we complete our final exercise. See you there. Hi everyone. For exercise 3, your task is to create a workspace in Priority Drive and add a few files to it. So pause the video and take your time working through this task. When you're ready, press play to see the solution worked out. Okay, so how did you do? Let's take a look. First, let's navigate to Priority Drive and then scroll down to Workspaces. Select Create and give the workspace a name. This screen opens so you can click Add Files. Now navigate through your drive and select some files to add to this workspace. Click Insert to have them added. And now we can add more files if needed, or we can remove files that we did not want. And when we're done, we click Done. And that's it. How did you do? I'm sure you did a great job, and as you know, one thing about these workspaces is to remember to come and clean them up frequently. Meet me over the next lesson where we wrap up our Google Drive journey. See you there. Hi everyone, you have made it. Congratulations on making it through all of the modules and exercises. What a journey it has been. Take a moment to think back to where you started and where you are now with all of the Google Drive tips and tricks under your belt. In this course, you learned about a variety of ways to get to Google Drive from anywhere, even when you don't have internet access. Google Drive really does give you that anytime, anywhere access to your files, allowing you to pick up right where you left off. After taking a tour of the Google Drive navigation and view options, we jumped straight into settings. One feature to consider is the offline access. Don't forget to use that offline preview button before an expected period of time when you're working offline, such as when traveling. We also looked at many ways to upload or create new files in our Google Drive, even if they are from templates. And we spent some time diving into how nicely Microsoft Office files do in fact play with Google Drive. And then for the fun part, all of the organization tips and tricks. Which naming trick was your favorite? How about the use of color coordinating those folders, or the use of stars to bookmark your folders and files? And remember, save yourself some time with that document version feature built right into Drive. No more having 20 copies of the same file in your Google Drive. And don't forget, one fantastic feature is the search capabilities and sharing options. To wrap it all up for those Google Workspace users, we took a quick look at special features such as Priority Drive and Shared Drives. So get yourself and your team organized. And speaking of organized, remember, your drive is a house for your files. It needs routine cleaning too. Don't forget to make that a priority. Okay, can you believe it? You did such an amazing job. Once again, my name is Heather Matisse. I'm so happy to have been your instructor. Thank you for being on this journey with me, and I hope you'll find Google Drive to be one of the best productivity tools and cloud services out there. Congratulations.